Hello everyone, and thank you for coming to our webinar today. So we're going to be talking about ensuring a smooth transition for Year 7s and Year 12s using baseline assessments. So we're going to be focusing on key areas which will support you. So my name's Lucy Baker, and I've currently got my colleague Cora Hermit with us as well. And we're just going to go through today of how we can help you with your current transition for students. Over to you, Cora.
Hello everyone, thanks Lucy. So I'll be facilitating today's session. So I just wanted to run through a few pieces of housekeeping before we start. So to ensure good sound quality, all members of the audience are muted. If you'd like to ask a question, and please do ask questions as we run through the session, you can use the question box, which is located on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll try and make sure we get to all the questions either through the session, or if not, we'll have some time at the end to look at them. So you'll receive a certificate of attendance to your email inbox an hour after the webinar finishes, and you'll receive a copy of the webinar recording sent via email next week.
Perfect.
So I'll also just say a few words to introduce Cambridge Chem and who we are. So Cambridge Chem is the Centre for Evaluation and Monitoring. We've been working with schools for over 40 years in over 100 countries. We're known for our evidence-based research approach to baseline and formative assessments, and we use extensive data sets to support future outcomes and development. We work with schools, ministries, and associations to transform the outcomes of the students they teach. In 2019, we became part of the University of Cambridge, which has supported our reach and our abilities to support young people across the world. We help teachers turn data into knowledge. We try and bridge the gap between research and practice, and we provide evidence to support good decision making. So I hope you enjoyed today's session. I'll hand over to Lucy, who will be talking to you more.
Perfect, thank you, Cora. So just a little bit about me. So my name's Lucy Baker, and I'm an assessment advisor at Chem, and we support from Alice to Base our assessments, and we give advice, post-sales support, and we're just here to help and be a bit of advice on your data. So I actually was about a year ago, I left teaching and I came over to Chem. So I was previously a primary school teacher, and I taught in two different schools, which one was a multi-academy trust, and then I've taught a range of year groups and had lots of different subjects as subject leader. So I've got a bit of experience in all of that. And I did enjoy teacher training and supporting other teachers in their development. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me. So now we're going to go and why you've turned up today, and hopefully I can give you a bit of advice. So just to say about Chem, you might have some Chem customer on here, or you might not be a Chem customer, but we provide baseline assessment from ages 3 to 19 years. So we're going to be focusing today on Midges and Alice, because these are the years that are from the transition periods. So we're going to focus on them, but these are the whole host of products that we offer and support for our research-based assessments. Yeah. So using data to diagnose and act on learning needs. So as I say, as teachers who are probably listening as well, we know that data is really vital, but at the same time, you get a lot of data and it's using it. And when you get a new Year 7 class, they could be an absolute mystery because all your Year 7s feed in from maybe different primary schools, different areas. You might get new students coming over. And then obviously you get lots of mix of data. So it can also be quite a surprise about what students can and can't do. Sometimes it doesn't match the previous information you have. Sometimes they can get, and sometimes they surpass it. So this is why sometimes the data isn't always as reliable as you haven't got a really clear baseline. And it's just quite hard, especially being Year 7s, even with your Alice students, so our Year 12s. You come to a new school, you transitioned up, and it's another big step. So they can have quite a turbulent time. So data can be skewed as well, but also their well-being can. So it's just understanding what they need. So, but without our reliable data and our baseline, you teachers are facing the questions of how do you know if you're doing the right thing, and how can you measure the progress the students are making? And then it's in your jobs in this first term to go, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and you target that. And that's what we're hopefully going to help you today. So a high quality entry baseline assessment provides information on what your students know and can do right from the start. Therefore, you save the students time and provide a great opportunity by adding educational value. And this just means that you are able to have a really clear overview and you can hit the ground running rather than spending more time doing other bits, which especially in teaching, as we know, there isn't spare time really. So it's really good to be able to be quick and reactive in a positive way. So in your schools, I imagine you're doing lots of really great and amazing things already, but especially since COVID, as we know, Obviously, the data we have across the UK has been quite variable. Has been areas there's massive gaps, and obviously we when we're teachers and you have been working really hard to plug the gaps, support the students, and make them as successful as possible, which is great. But a baseline assessment will help schools to understand their students' needs. It measures an individual's aptitude for learning, their potential, as well as measuring their impact they have on learners as they progress through the school. So I really think it's good to have a really good measure at the start of the year when they come in, even if you don't use Chem products, but have something where you can measure where they are so you have a really clear learning journey. Because I imagine there's some of you already currently doing things like observations, quizzes, you're doing projects, essays, exams, and formative assessments and more. And you're doing all of this to understand the student's start point. But it's obviously quite time consuming, especially when they have it across all their subjects in year 7 and year 12. So having one assessment is really effective, I think, and save you time and having to do this. So, and also it's consistent. You can always guarantee if you have a parent come back to you and go, oh, I don't agree with the data my child has, what we're going to do, you can go, actually, we have an unbiased data marker here and offer it in that way, which is really positive. So just to say though, a baseline assessment should complement the data you already have. So if you have data from multiple primary schools for midges coming in, a baseline data assessment should actually be able to complement and go, okay, this supports it. This supports what you've got from their previous school and says, yep, this student is at this level, they've got all this potential and it's amazing. It should also be known that you can't just rely on baseline data, you need to have lots of things put together to support them. Because one single assessment can't tell you what the student knows. It needs to be skilled and carefully triangulate a bit of information from a range of sources which will provide the best platform for success in the classroom. And that's what you do. You use your teacher judgment, your teacher knowledge, alongside having really good data and baseline data. You bring it all together, you use really good lesson plans, interventions, and it all works together to make the best possible opportunities for your students when they've come up to your school. Just to mention that. So, using baseline data to support transitions. As we know, you've had your students now for about 2.5 weeks, and obviously you've got to know them and it's been really positive. But what I'd really recommend if you're using any baseline data assessment when you come in and to make sure they feel calm and comfortable and the transition is smooth for them, I would just remind them that it's a low stakes assessment. And by that, I mean that what they answer, it would just be there to support them and help the teacher understand them. And I think it's a really important factor to say to your year 7s and your year 12s, just to say that actually, whatever you get in this assessment will help make your learning journey clearer for us so we can support you. And I think that will really help them understand why they're doing it and also make them feel less panicked by this. I know when I've talked to some schools, they've said parents have been quite panicked over hearing their students doing an assessment when they enter. We're going, actually, it's just a really clear marker, a baseline marker to tell us where the student is, and it actually helps make a whole learning journey and plan for them. So it's a completely positive experience. So when you get the data from a baseline assessment, you need to make sure as a staff team, you're working together to discuss the trends in the data and saying what you notice. If you've noticed that maybe lots of students are likely to achieve higher grades in one subject like biology compared to geography or something else, you need to be able to see and compare that and have those open discussions. Something I learned when I was teaching was that actually it's really positive. Whenever I was stuck or with a data or I had to boost my data up and had to think of interventions to do this, if I sat down with my colleagues and my team went, I'm not sure what to do here, can you see any trends in my data? It was a really good way to get other ideas coming in and get that support. And you make the best ideas when you make it as a group and you're supported by each other. So it'll be really key, I think. So when you get all your baseline data this term, discuss it, share it with senior leadership, share it with your head of years, and just have a really good chat and use that data to benefit you and save you time so you've got a really clear understanding for the students. So students' development and learning is key, but remember the whole student's development is important. So I really want to emphasize that there's quite an emotional transition period for them. So I would also focus on just about their well-being. So as you know already, year 7's probably coming, because they was at the top of the year when they were in year 6, they've come in, and now they've gone to year 7 and they're the youngest year, they probably feel quite small, and it's just making sure they feel secure and safe. The same for year 12s, they've just finished his GCSEs, and they've now gone on to sixth form, where they have to make really big decisions about their future, about they have to start thinking about what they're going to pick to focus on universities. It's all quite a hard time for them. So I really think focusing on mental health is a really key thing. We also currently do a wellbeing check, which is there to support and identify trends in wellbeing and support students on an individual basis, which I think is really helpful. And Wendy Robinson from the Service of Childline says, a helpful way to overcome a new challenge is to focus on positives rather than just the scary bits. So I think it'd be really good from a wellbeing side to focus on the positives, the new friendship groups, on the really fun interactive lessons and more choice of subjects they have being in secondary, or maybe the more focused areas, the more detail they're going to get being in sixth form, and all those positives, but also the positives of data. So you could even, when you have their baseline data, we do encourage talking to the students as well, because when students know they understand their learning and know what they can do and they can see they have this amazing potential, if you actually show them and you go, actually, you're capable of getting some really amazing things, look at this. I think it's a really positive way to empower them to go, actually, I can do this. I can be fabulous working in my secondary or my sixth form. And it's a really positive thing to do. So just to let you know, it's completely free. So Ken, we often we regularly release articles just about ideas from younger years to older years, just about how to support and suggestions that we have as well. And you've got one here. So giving your year 7 students a strong start. So we give some really key advice on data about things you can do. So for example, list things about icebreaker activities, which are really effective, informal conversations and that relationship teachers build with students, about observations on the student engagement and how to identify if a student maybe isn't engaging fully in the class or feels a bit concerned or anxious, and also just focusing on well-being and how well-being is a really good focus to have in your school, which I'm sure lots of your schools are doing already. But it's just a really key one, because when they have positive well-being, they're able to learn better, more effectively, and their data will improve as well from that because they feel more secure and happy as a student. But yeah, so on our blog, we have lots of different things there if you want to read. They're all quite short reads as well, which is nice, just to give a bit of information if you're looking for out there. So I'm going to go into a bit more information now just about the data that we offer and about some reports that I think will be really helpful for you and will help ease this transition of now you have your data, what you can do with it, and also what I would look for if I had this data come to me. So just to say, having this baseline data helps you identify where a student can succeed. It highlights their key areas of what subjects are likely to succeed in, or just a really high area if they have a high vocabulary or non-verbal. It's a really good way to get that whole overview for a new student you've got. It helps you make choice over subjects, which again is really key. It helps them make a really informed decision. And it also helps teachers and parents also understand what's best for them. And it helps the students learn about their potential and the type of learner they want to be. We've found that if a student understands what their likelihood is, if their predictive grades, they go, actually, if I do this, I could succeed more. And it actually gives them a motivation. It makes them go, okay, so I'm actually really good at vocabulary, but I maybe struggle in some areas here. What can we do? And that's when you can have this really good chats with teachers and your students and the parents and bring everyone together so the child has a really clear trajectory of where they want to go and how they can feel supported. So I'm going to show you this one. So the cohort profile. So this one is definitely aimed for senior leadership, which I think is really effective, but also teachers as well, just so they can get an overview and insight. So let me just get my pointer and I can show you here. So over here you can filter of what you're looking for, just to let you know if you are on our online system for midges. So this report details the ability of a cohort in all assessment sections using the achievement bands A to D. And we have a whole explanation on our website about our banding. But it gives, I think the cohort profile gives you a really good overview because, as you know, as educators, every single cohort you get each year is completely different. You're never going to get the same cohort with the same data every single time. It will always change, and it's something to really monitor. So as a school, when they've done their baseline assessment, getting a whole cohort profile, I think will really give you a chance to be like, okay, we can see from this cohort that the data is lower here or higher here. What we can do is we can then target vocabulary, for example. If vocabulary was lower, we can do a whole school approach of boosting vocabulary in certain lessons. We could do it in this way, and it really boosts the students up and it aids that transition because everyone's getting extra learning in that way, and it's supporting them and plugging any gaps they might have. So for transition period where it's really effective, and I'd recommend it. And also as a whole school approach, if, for example, with vocabulary, as I said before, you can even have a thing where in every subject they have some keywords they're going to use in their books, and that's the thing that they unlike in their work, and that's in that topic of learning. And you use that, you look at it, and then the children you have to use that vocabulary regularly. And it's just a simple thing, but it builds it up, and using it across the school means that students then get all that support, and then you'll see the data going up. You'll see that their vocabulary skills are higher, and just really effective, and it will help smooth out any gaps they have. So this is a really effective one, I think, for schools, especially with your transition years. I think it will really benefit you having a really good look altogether. So I'm going to now go into students' vocabulary abilities. I previously mentioned it as well, but I'm going to recommend the standardization scores I think are really effective. So I've broken them down for your year 7s and your year 12s. But what we've got here, I think, is a really positive way. So let's look at our year 7 side. There'd normally be names down here, but obviously we're on a webinar. So we'd have names here, and then it gives you the standardized score and the band. And the band fits into our bell curve here. This is just an example. But then it breaks down where the areas of students are. And this is a really good one. I did this regularly as a teacher. I used to get my highlighter, go through, and I just identify ones that are maybe on the lower end. And then it prompted me to go, actually, that student has also been a bit quiet in class. They seem to be a little bit nervous, maybe with transition time. What can I do? And you can actually look at maybe their individual report and actually get more of an idea of their learning, but also it prompts that one-to-one chat as well. And I think it's a really good way to help identify those students in that way. And if you come over to our year 12 side, again, you get a bit more information here. So you get your standardized score, you get your band, you get your saline, and you get your percentiles. And it's broken down really clearly again. And again, similar to year 7s, I'd really encourage you to go through, have a look at it really carefully and just identify any trends. Maybe you have maybe there's kids who come from one school where actually a lot of them are in the same range. What does that mean? Do you need to maybe plan some big intervention for that group in that way? Maybe some whole school assemblies focus on something else. It's just understanding that data and using it to the best of your skills and knowledge to benefit the school. And I think it'll really benefit you in that way. So vocabulary wise, you can never go wrong giving students extra vocabulary and developing it, because vocabulary is really key. A student who's got high vocabulary skills will often succeed more in exams because they've got more of that knowledge to doing their written exams when it's written in word questions. It's really important to have this. So I'd really recommend just really looking at your vocabulary scores, identifying children who have lower vocabulary and just helping support them in that way. And I think this will really help smooth the transition. And when they feel they understand more of the new vocabulary that's brought in the year 7 years and year 12 years, because you get new subjects, they'll feel more confident. It will help boost their mental well-being, so they feel that they understand the learning, and it all just keeps going up and helps them feel more positive about it. So really strongly recommend this. So mathematics. As we know, it's really good to have a high maths score because obviously you need your maths GCSEs. Then when you apply for jobs, you need maths English GCSEs and everything else. It's really vital. But the good thing about baseline assessments, especially for transition, is this will really highlight if a student is having an area of concern with mathematics. But it won't just be about their knowledge, it will be about their understanding of how questions are phrased. It will identify about their speed and how they answer it. And you get a lot of information from the data here. And I'd really recommend, again, looking at the standardized scores, getting that highlighter out or on your computer and just going through it and just assessing what you can see about the students in that way. And again, they've got some very high bands here. But you can go, actually, this student here, they're lower, but you might be an independent school. And then even they go, actually, why is this student lower in this way? When we did the assessments before they came in, what can we do to support them, bring their grades up and support them in that way? And I think, again, really good focus to look at. And especially as a cohort, when you get all the data all together, you can just get a really good understanding of who is in your school, what their maths abilities are, and what you need to do as a school, as a teaching staff to put in place for it. And again, if students feel that they feel confident in what they're doing and they understand the learning, they will flourish and be more positive, and the transition period will be a lot smoother for them. They feel secure and they feel more in control. Similar to our year 12s over here, you get the broken down scores again. And again, just looking really carefully at the data you're being given and going, okay, what does this mean for us? What should we do to target this? So for example, here we can go, we've got some lower scores here. These children might be doing subjects that maybe they're not happy with. What can we do? Could we offer extra support? Can we do, yeah. It's just a really good identifier, and I would really encourage you to look at your standardized scores for this term, because if you understand what they know, you can make them feel comfortable and plug those gaps to help them feel more confident in what they're learning and make them be in control of their learning again. Again, a really positive for me. And it's going to look similar again. So we've got non-verbal. So in here, you've got a non-verbal. Again, it's broken down. You get them from Midges and Yellis, so you can look at all of them, and it's normally all together, and it's really informative. So a student's non-verbal abilities indicate potential areas where they might excel or face issues in the future, such as exams and written coursework. And by this, what I mean is, so when we say the transition period, if you identify it now, It's going to really help that student develop over the years they're in your secondary or sixth form, because then you'll go, actually, this student has a really low non-verbal skills, and actually we found that that tends to affect them when it comes to exams. And that's an area that you'd be like, okay, what does this mean? Does it mean that actually maybe they might have an extra need? Does it mean that they need more support in this area? And again, it's just really thinking about what it might mean and looking and diving deeper into those students. And it's just really key that I think you look at this, because they need to have these abilities as well to develop and to progress in the future and to help them at university. So if we can get them supported now and help them feel secure and understand their learning and their abilities and help boost them, we can move them forward in that positive way. Yeah. So I'm going to move off from our standardization scores, but really key, and I think you can get a lot of information from them, and I really encourage you as a school to look at them. It's really good for transition, understanding your whole cohort and your data. So here is one that for transition I think is really positive, especially for the ALICE users who are on this call for your year 12s. I think it's really effective to use your chance graphs in this way, and especially as obviously when they're coming up to sixth form, they're going to be young adults. They're going to be getting to that age. They're 16 to 19, and they want to be. It's good for them to really understand what they're doing and their learning and their development. So I think having the chance graph is really good to empower them. And I think especially at the start of the year, it's really good to go, okay, so you've got these subjects that you've picked, and this is your chance graph for the subjects. Or alternatively, just to say you can do these before they've picked and then use them to inform decisions as well, which some schools do. But if you sat down with that child, you said, this is what you've picked. So for example, this student here has picked history, and they are likely to get a 7, which is great. Then you go, okay, but you could get higher or you could get lower. And that really builds up those one-to-one questions and discussion with that student about, what do you think you could do to get higher? Your chance is this, is the highest chance, but what could we do to support you? What do you think you need? How do you think your learning could be improved? And this is a really good, especially when they've just joined, it's a really good time for them to chat with their form tutors or chat with that teacher and get that connection to help them feel more comfortable, more secure in the class, and help smooth that transition. But also it kind of shows them that the teacher understands what they're likely to get, and then builds that relationship of, you can get this, and you can work hard for this in that positive way. I think it's a really good one to share. And if they understand where their data is, they can go, okay, I'm going to try this, and the teacher understands as well. Yeah, it really builds it up. But I definitely encourage chats with the teachers just to kind of build that connection and make them understand what the teacher thinks they're doing, understand the curriculum, understand what's coming in the course, and they can help them feel calmer about this new year group, this new transition. We do this for every subject as well, just to let you know. So most subjects have this, and it will give predictions from the baseline data that's fed in, or your GCSE data previously. So this one I've talked about in previous webinars, but I very much think it's really vital. So when you've looked at your standardization scores, you've gone through and you've highlighted a few students, you're like, a bit concerned about this group or this individual student. This is a really effective and helpful report that I will say is really vital. It breaks down an individual student's record, and it breaks down their vocabulary, their maths, their non-verbal and skills, and then gives you an overall ability. So that's for midges. And over here you get, again, vocabulary, maths, non-verbal, and then ability. So a bit different for midges and ALICE, but they're different assessments. So, but you get a really good overview, and you can actually see where you have the national line with the average, and you can work out where the student is. And from this data, you can get a really clear picture. And I think, especially for transition, for those one-to-one chats, for that building that connection, understand the student's needs to make it smooth, looking at this will really benefit you, because if you look along here, you go, okay, this student actually, they're where they should be. There's nothing that's completely out of line. And then you go, actually, this student seems very secure. But if I come over here and go, actually, this ALICE student over here, they've got really great vocabulary ability. That's fabulous. But their maths is a little bit low. And then their non-verbal skills is quite low. And you go, what could be causing this? And this is when I really think it's important to get this data and go, okay, we can find out what's causing it. We can have a chat with a student, find out how they feel towards education. It's a really good way to do this. And so I'd really encourage you to look at this, especially from students who identify the data being a bit lower or something that maybe doesn't fit. There's been some students where I've seen where they've had really high data except for one area, and then they've gone, why not? And they've talked to the student, they've actually got a really clear understanding as to why in that way. So I'm just going to give you a bit of an example here that I think, just to show you how I would look at this. So I've got this student here. I've got their individual report. I identified them from my standardization, my graph there, and I thought, okay, this student, the data is concerning me a bit. I'm going to have a look a bit deeper at them. So I've got their data here. I've gone, okay, so I've got their bands, and I've got all their information here. So Alice, this is my Alice report. And I've gone, oh, okay, their skills are quite a bit lower. You've got a bit lower in maths, but then you've got quite high in non-verbal. Okay, so what does this mean? So for me, this would go non-verbal. It means they're high and above average, which is great. It means they're a visual learner. They're good at spotting patterns. They're a problem solver, but slower, maybe lack the ability to explain as clearly, possibly. It might mean they may be a bit of a frustrated learner. You don't know, but you can have those chats to identify it. Vocabulary-wise, they're quite low, which means that actually it'd be really good across the school to support them in this way, to boost the vocabulary. As I previously said, you could then, if you spotted a whole trend across the whole school or across certain schools, feeder schools, they'll come into your school, you can go, actually, let's target vocabulary, let's bring it up, let's boost our scores and do things like having keynotes in book that moves from books, having targets, having questions at the start of a lesson or recaps that make children talk about the vocabulary they previously talked about in that way. Their maths here, they're a bit below average, so especially for their speed and fluency. So you go, okay, what does this mean? Does this mean in an exam they might take longer to do the questions? Does it mean they may be slow in processing? They may go, do they need extra time? Let's dive into this student. Let's see if we can help them and understand a bit more about whether the school they were previously, what information they have, and bring it all together to help them settle in really nicely into school and feel supported and understood. And then skills. So here for skills, they're below average. Again, do they maybe need some more time, extra time in their exams? Again, it's really seeing what the data can give you, because you can just look at this and go, okay, they're fine. But actually you can go, what can this mean for that student, and really use it in a positive way to support them. And that's why I think it's really effective to do this transition, because you can really understand the pupil. I do fully understand that obviously you have a massive cohort of students for year 7 or year 12, so you're not going to be able to do this for every single student, but looking at the overall standardized data, breaking it down to their maths, verbal and non-verbal skills, and understanding where they are, you can then really go forward with that and identify the key students who might need support and make the whole cohort have a really smooth transition into the year and flourish. So this was actually a quote from someone who uses Chem. So he said, the main strength of Chem assessments for me is that it's with you for the whole journey. You get a snapshot of where the students are, so you can decide if the curriculum meets their needs. You use it in the class for teaching and learning, and then at the end you can use it data to evaluate your success. So I put this quote in because I think Chem assessment is really effective, but any baseline assessment you use will benefit your students either way, so I really encourage it. But it just shows that actually it's a really good tracker for the students to see where they came at the start of the year, how they had that transition period, you plugged their gaps, you helped support them, you helped understand their needs, and where they've got to at the end. It's nice for the teacher to say, I've achieved my goals here because my students all succeeded, they've got the grades. And then it's a really good tracker, and I really do encourage it. And also you can, if you have a student who maybe came at the start of the year, they had a bit of a bumpy transition, they maybe came in, they weren't as keen on learning, and they weren't as confident in lessons, and you've supported them through that, and you go at the end of the year, this is your data across the years. Look how you've improved, look at the success you've made. I think it's a really great way to make that student see how much they've shone and grown and developed in that way. Yeah. So that is all for me. It's quite a short webinar today, but if you have any questions, it'd be great to hear them now. But yeah, anything else you'd like to know?
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Lucy. Like you say, we've got a little bit of time for any questions. So if there's anything you'd like to know more about or anything we didn't quite cover, feel free to drop them in the question box on the right-hand side of your screen. And we've got some time to get to those. Just give people a minute if anyone wants to ask anything.
Yep. And just to say, just while I was typing a question, if you have any questions you don't want to ask on here, or you just want a bit more information about we've had schools contacted about how to talk to Chem to parents or anything else, if you just send us an email, so chem@cambridge.org, we can send you some more information, or you can email me at lucy.baker@cambridge.org. I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you want any extra resources and something to support you, maybe with, or just understand some of your reports, just drop us a line. We're really happy to help.
Lovely. So I can't see any questions coming through. So you must have done a good job, Lucy, answered everyone's answered everyone's questions. So unless anyone has anything else, No, I think we're all good. Well, thank you so much for presenting today, Lucy. That was really interesting. Some great tips there on transitioning. And just like you said, we're here if anyone wants to get in touch. So thank you so much for your time today, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.